Any thoughts on that? You know where we are. Let's talk about Roy Hodgson, because he has said today he is stepping down. I think, can I just say, first of all, before we talk about Roy, and the job he's done at Palace and his career, really. I mean, he said he's stepping away from football, but will he come back to football? What kind of role will he be in? We'll wait and see what happens. So it's not like, I don't think we need to reflect totally on his whole career right here.
Well, it's not finished yet, is
exactly,
it?
Yeah. But I think that there's a lot of people being very hypocritical, because 5 years ago, you're all absolutely nailing Roy Hodgson for putting Harry Kane on corners. I'm going to stick my hand up. I was one of those as well. But there's a lot of people just completely airbrushing that out
and
of
Liverpool
history.
Fans out there.
Absolutely.
Nailed
Couldn't
him
wait to get rid of him. So let's have a bit of realism in the debate. I don't particularly want to nail Roy Hodgson. Having dealt with him at Euro 2016, we met him a couple of times, didn't we?
Yeah.
He was a very... I'm not talking about interviews or anything. Met him
away from
out on the street in...
Well,
Chamonix.
pub.
Not Chamonix. Where were we? Chantilly.
Chantilly, yeah.
Chamonix is where they go skiing.
Yeah. It's where I've been skiing as well. Yeah, Chantilly.
You get me small French towns mixed up. Anyway,
horse racing.
And he's a lovely bloke. There's no doubt about it. He's a lovely bloke. But if you analyse his managerial career, England was a low point. I think we'd all agree with that. But people shouldn't just forget it like it didn't happen. People shouldn't just ignore the fact they criticised him. So a bit of realism, I think, in this debate. In terms of Crystal Palace, what do you give him out of 10?
I think he's done what job they asked him to do, so you've got to give him 10 out of 10, purely on when he went there. And I think even with his interview, he's come out and said today he's glad he's going out his way, and they've had another great season. So that, for me, tells you, but all along, his job is only to keep them in that mid-table in the Premier League. So you've got to give him 9 or 10 out of 10, because that's the job he's been asked to do. Now, if they said to him, go get us in Europe, it's a different mark, isn't it? But I think he's made it obvious, but the job is just to stay in there.
But when you're told, right, your job is to stay in the Premier League, and I can believe that was the job he was tasked to do, don't you, as a matter of professional pride, think to yourself, do you know what, yeah, I'll do that, no problem. But, I've been around the block, I'm going to do a little bit more than that.
No, they don't, though. They don't gamble. They don't gamble like that, do they? You look at the way they revert to type. Look at Steve Bruce, at the way he manages it will always be the same. Yes, once they're kind of safe, it changes it. You've got the same with Sam Allardyce, but now he's suddenly trying to play open football because they're basically relegated. But while they start a job at the start of the season, there's always that cautious factor in the way they manage. And that's what he does. He organises them defensively. He's the players always speak highly of Roy Hodgson, don't they? I think they did with England. Yeah. So he's very much a good man to have around, very organised, very thorough in what he does. And he gets the job done, as in for Crystal Palace staying in the Premier League.
I think that with a player like Zaha, and he's 28 now, Zaha, with a player like that in your squad, no team should go down. There's got to be a major failure from the manager for a team to go down when you've got a player that good in your squad. And the fact that they can't win without him, to me, says it all. They've lost 18 of the last 23 when Zaha hasn't played. They've failed to score in 16 of those 18 defeats. The last 2 games they played without Zaha were 0-0 draws. I think it's, without being disrespectful, he has got a stellar player in amongst a lot of average Premier League players, maybe not even that, but he's got a stellar player. And I think when you look at the lack of goals,
than one player, Ed.
The lack of goals and the lack of excitement in Roy Hodgson's Crystal Palace over the 3 or so years he's been in charge, I think that you can't possibly be serious giving him 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10.
But listen, Benteke has started scoring goals. He's scored his last 3 now, right? I mean, where's he been the last 2 or 3 seasons?
Exactly, yeah.
He says he's a better player. We interviewed him, didn't we? I'm a better player now, but if you're going to play up top, you need to score goals. You can't just be relying on Zaha to get the goals. This year, he started scoring. I think he's out of contract, is he?
That might be true, yeah.
So he started scoring goals.
He's one of those, yeah.
And probably thought, it's not good enough now just to be there as the guy who's going to hold up play and the odd flick on here and there and score the odd goal. He's got to start scoring goals. But I think if you look at the money they've had available to sign players in, I know they've got Zaha and I know they're paying him an absolute fortune to stay there because they see him as a player, but they'll get a few quid for down the line whenever he does go. But I think they don't spend anything. Look at the money they spend. They spend nothing. This is a Premier League team now. I've been in there for quite a while now, Ed. And they spend nothing.
Okay, so you shouldn't be expecting them to be top four or anything like that. I just think with a player like Zaha, to build around, that you should be playing better football. I'll give you the example of, you talked about Benteke there. Do you remember Sorloth when they had him? He couldn't get goals out of him. Then he goes on loan to Turkey, bangs in goals for fun, now scoring in the Champions League and Bundesliga for Leipzig. You know, so surely it's something about the way Roy sets his teams up.
Players, that's happened to footballers throughout. A certain club might suit the way they play, and they go to that next club and everything clicks, and there they go.
Yeah, but we've got a pattern here. Benteke, Sorloth, Ayew, they just don't score goals, do they? It's all about, any manager, I think, could have survived with Wilfried Zaha. So I'm not going to give him 3 out of 10 or anything ridiculous, Roy Hodgson. I would have liked to have seen a bit more ambition in the Cups, for example. In the League Cup, they've lost to lower division opposition every single season. I think I'm right in saying that Wilfried Zaha has never started a League Cup tie under Roy Hodgson. And that surprises me hugely. At least give it a go. FA Cup, there's not been a lot. They had a quarter-final run, and then Zaha was left out because he had an injury. Played the games either side of that quarter-final against Watford, so it makes you wonder how injured he was.
But that's what I'm saying to you. Yeah. So for them, it's all about the Premier League and making sure they can finish as close to mid-table as they possibly can.
Yeah, I get it.
That is their ambition, Aid. And whether you like it or not, as a business, that's the way the club is run. And unless they're suddenly going to say to a new manager, here's 200 million, let's have a good run for Europa League. That's the only way it's going to change. But it's not, is it? Let's be honest about it.
I just find it very dull to watch. You're waiting for Zaha to do something, and that's it. So I wonder, and I think Crystal Palace fans have expressed that in recent times. Now, if they make the wrong appointment, replacing him, then they're going to have a massive problem. We've seen clubs do that before. So what next for Crystal Palace, and what do you give Roy out of 10? 08717 223344. I saw a tweet from Patrick Van Aanholt as well. And sometimes footballers will tweet something and it kind of looks like the press officer's written it and they've cut and pasted it and on it goes. This one really sounded from the heart from Van Aanholt, and I think the players do
He's
speak
popular.
highly of him.
He's very popular amongst the players. I think Danny Murphy speaks highly of him as well, doesn't he, from his time as well. So yeah, he's obviously a people person. He cares for the players. And you could say a lot of managers probably don't. But I think he's one of them who actually cares for all his players. And as I said, he's an organiser. And you've got it. Well, he's had a great career. And it is. If you consider to survive that long in football, Aid, and manage some of the teams he has, and manage his country, it's a great career.
He's had an incredible career. What do you give him out of 10, though? John's a Crystal Palace fan. How you doing?
Hi, Adrian. Yes. Adrian, I give him 6 out of 10. And I concur with all your sentiments about his managerial skills at Crystal Palace. It's been abysmal over the last 4 years, especially at home. Not too bad away. I actually believe it or not, too bad away. We've had 1 or 2 really good wins, but at home it's been absolutely dreadful. We've had 15 goals at home in 19 matches last season. And the season before, it wasn't much better. 14 goals in the first 18 matches and 5 on the last day of the season. There's been no goals. He hasn't brought through any of the youngsters that we have, and now we see we've actually got a much better youth team than we thought we had.
Didn't one of those youngsters score the winner at the weekend?
No, he doesn't play them. He doesn't play. Mitchell scored, yes, but Mitchell got into the team purely because of injuries caused mainly in training. Most of our injuries from Patrick...
That's what normally happens, by the way. You normally do get a chance as a youngster because of injuries. Rashford got his chance. Guess what?
Yeah.
Because of injuries.
Yeah, so did Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He got in because of injuries.
So did Kane.
Yeah, but we've had 2. That's the only 2 players he's brought through in 4 years. We've now got our under-18 team have came second in the Southern League on the same points as Fulham, who won it. Our under-23 side yesterday got through to the final of the second division. We could go up into the Premier League of the under-23s. So the players are there. he won't use them. He won't even put them on the bench.
But that's part of what Goughie was saying. It's part of what you're saying about his job is to keep them up, and there's an inconsistency with younger players. So, given what you've said, and I think you're spot on, his brief was to keep them up. There's a reluctance to use younger players. And I get that.
Let's give him some credit here. What about, how do you know he's not been responsible for this emergence of the youngsters coming through? He's been there a few years. He's put everything in place with his coaching team, and now they're starting to come through. So he feels as though, right, he's started it off now. It's time for another manager to continue it. He is 70-odd years old, by the way, Roy Hodgson. So how do you know he's not responsible for that? Because if you look at the way teams play at clubs in the Premier League, their youth teams tend to play the same way as the main team.
True. Let's speak to Rich, who's a Palace fan. How you doing, Rich?
Hello, you right?
Yeah, good, mate. Good to have you on.
Yeah, I would give him 9, but I totally agree with a lot of what you said and what the last caller said. I'd give him 9. I had it a couple of years ago on a good source from Club Insider. He was set a target of 1 point per game to keep us up every season, which, as a Palace fan, is frustrating. It's negative. The football we play is atrocious, but he's done what he was there to do. But it's certainly more than time for him to go.
Yeah. It's an interesting take on it, Rich. 9 out of 10. He has done the job he's asked to do. You can't get away from that. Wayne has tweeted, first time I've ever agreed with Adrian. I know it's a fine line between being ambitious and gung-ho, but we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that football is a form of entertainment. So he said it's time for Hodgson to go.
It is, but it's not for clubs. Certain clubs, it's about staying in where the money is. Unfortunately, this is all the debates we've been having over the past 6 weeks about top 6 here, top 6 there. It's about money. And even the clubs in mid-table, they can talk about they're not happy with what the big 6 were doing, and nobody is. But they're also obsessed with staying in the main, the main division and the money that it brings. So Crystal Palace and Burnley and these sort of teams and Brighton are desperate to stay in the Premier League year on year.
In terms of goals scored, the season 2019-20 was a shocker. 31 goals in 38 games. So far this season, 40 goals in 36, so it isn't getting much better. Entertainment-wise, you're definitely not giving a 9 or 10 out of 10 to Roy at Crystal Palace, are you? This is talkSPORT.